What if Zero Two can consume memories? What if Zero Two and Hiro actually met as children, but she consumed his memory of her? And ever since they reunited, Zero Two has been trying to get Hiro to remember her. This is Darling the Franxx, the Memory Theory. In episode 7, we see Dr. Franxx give Hiro some cautionary advice. Don't let her devour your emotions too. Devour your emotions too, implying she's already devoured something from Hiro. What has Hiro lost up until now? Well, after their first battle together, Hiro lost all memory of the combat. A little later, he was able to recall the kiss at the start, but that was it. What if Zero Two devoured Hiro's memory of the fight in order to protect him for their first ride? The next 2 times they ride, Hiro comes out of it a lot rougher. Now, this isn't the first time Hiro has lost his memory. There are a number of references to Hiro not remembering things from his childhood. Goro even remarks that there was a point at which Hiro had changed. Mitsuru is worked up about Hiro not remembering their promise to pilot together. Ichigo is surprised when Hiro does remember their promise together. It seems that when Hiro was a child, something made him lose his memories. Now, at this point, as of episode 12, it is pretty much confirmed that they did meet as children. If you missed this, we can do a quick recap. In episode 1, we see her in front of the mistletoe tree in the woods. In the opening, we see her holding hands with Hiro in the woods. Yes, that's Hiro, it's the same jacket. In episode 6, we see Hiro's inner monologue, where he recognizes the mistletoe tree and sees an image of Zero Two refusing to take his hand. It's a callback from when they were holding hands as children. In episode 12, we see Ichigo's flashback of Hiro reading the book about the mistletoe tree, and Hiro's desire to go to the one in the garden. Note that this is Ichigo's flashback. She remembers all of this, Hiro doesn't. In episode 12, we see Hiro physically make it to the mistletoe tree, where he begins to remember Zero Two. Later on in this scene, we see Hiro finally be sure that he remembers child Zero Two from the past, and she's in full Klaxosaur form. And there have been hints about all of this right from the very start in episode 1. Zero Two and Hiro meet at the lake. Hiro is standing there silently, staring at her. He finally mutters out some words, to which Zero Two responds with, "Oh, and here I thought you were dead." When we first heard that, it was just a simple comment about Hiro finally talking after just staring at her. Nobody took her words literally. But if Zero Two actually remembers Hiro, this means so much more. She may have actually thought he was dead, after being separated all of this time since they were children. Also, at the very end of episode 1, is her saying, "Found you, my darling." Again, when we first saw this, it didn't mean that much. We all just assumed she meant she finally found a partner like her. But with what we know now, it means so much more. She's saying that she found her darling from the past. Darling the Franxx has lots of these blink and you'll miss it moments. There are scenes and lines of dialogue that may be unremarkable during a first viewing, but actually have double meanings and real significance to the story. I really like this about the series, and it makes going back to earlier episodes just so much more enjoyable, even if it's not even finished airing. Anyways, more from the lake scene. Remember, this is the first time that they meet, at this point in their lives. Zero Two immediately takes a liking to Hiro and asks to be her darling. Now, a lot of people immediately dismiss this as the usual anime trope where a girl throws themselves on the main character for no plain reason. But I think it can mean more than that, especially if you consider that Hiro was actually special to Zero Two in the past. It all isn't just another anime trope. Something happened when they were little. Hiro was very special to Zero Two, and she remembers it all. But what actually happened way back then? How did they lose each other, and how did Hiro lose his memories? Well, I think it all happened when Zero Two and Hiro tried to escape the garden. Now, bear with me here, there's going to be a lot of speculation, but I think I can back it up. So what happened was, Zero Two and Hiro first met as children, and they planned a true escape from the garden. But during the escape, something went wrong, and it attracted the Klaxosaurs. In the resulting chaos, Zero Two made Hiro lose his memory, they separated, and they both got rescued by Franxx, separately. So let's break it down. First of all, why was it an escape? Well, in the present, both Zero Two and Hiro have a tendency to run off and do their own things. So now we're assuming they're escaping. How do we know that something went wrong? Well, we see from the very beginning, a young Zero Two turns and faces a horde of Klaxosaurs. How do we know that they got separated? Well, in this scene, she's alone, and she probably never saw Hiro again after that, which is why she was so surprised to see him alive later on. How do we know that she gets rescued? Well, in that scene, where she's staring down those Klaxosaurs, a gust of wind rushes in. We see a similar gust of wind right before we see Strelitzia for the first time. The gust of wind signifies the arrival of a Franxx. So it looks like a Franxx saved 02 from the Klaxosaurs, and presumably another Franxx found and saved Hero as well. Now, the big thing left to explain is the memory wipe. Some people say that the doctors erased Hero's memory on purpose, but I'm not so sure. We can already see that 02 can consume Hero's memory from when they first piloted, so I think it makes more sense that as children, 02 intentionally caused Hero to lose his memory when the escape went wrong. Well, why would she do this? Remember that 02 is a special project. She was probably kept very secret and separated from the other children. This is why I think it's very plausible that 02 erased Hero's memories on purpose in order to protect him, not from the Klaxosaurs, but from the caretakers and the other higher powers in control at the garden. So let's run through this entire thing again. Imagine 02 and Hero are running through the woods. They want to escape the garden and be free, but then Klaxosaurs appear and attack, ruining the escape, and it looks like all hope is lost. 02, never being afraid of death, has a plan. She can save Hero by sacrificing herself and distracting the Klaxosaurs away from Hero. Hero could then later be found and rescued by their caretakers. But of course there's a catch. Hero isn't supposed to know about 02. If Hero remembers her, it could jeopardize his training to become a parasite and he could be pruned. So 02 knows all of this, and despite the consequences, she knows that the only way to save him is to erase all his memories of her and let him be rescued. So 02 erases Hero's memories, leaves him in a safe spot in the woods, and then she leaves to go and distract the Klaxosaurs away. So 02 is sacrificing herself in order to save Hero. But of course in the end, at the last second, she does get rescued by Franxx, and ever since then, she has no idea whether or not Hero survived. All of this time, after all of these years, 02 remembers Hero, but Hero doesn't remember her. Now, to go on a brief tangent here, have you all heard of the red and blue Oni theory? Well, I'm not going to go into it in detail here, but wouldn't it be fitting if their story together started off with 02 trying to sacrifice herself to save Hero, and their story ending with Hero sacrificing himself to save 02? But that's for another time. Anyways, back to the present. 02 has finally found her darling again. She's smart enough to know that she simply can't tell him what happened to get him back. You know, there's been years of training and learning from the garden that's really changed Hero since those early days. So now she takes it upon herself to help Hero find who he truly is, and starting, of course, by literally throwing herself onto him. But we see all of this in the present, where she's trying to help Hero learn and remember. In episode 3, Hero finishes training and finds 02. The resulting sequence is one of those scenes full of double meaning and significance more than it initially shows. First, she says, "I was tired of waiting for you, let's go." This is one of those double meanings. When we first saw this, it was just a simple, unremarkable line of dialogue about how 02 is tired of waiting for Hero to finish training. But the other meaning is that she was tired of waiting for Hero after all of these years separated. Continuing on with the scene, they have to pass a security gate. Now, 02 has clearance, but Hero does not. 02 teases him about this, and then she shows him how they can bypass it by waltzing through the gate together. Now, it's easy to dismiss this as a simple foreshadowing to the next episode where they waltz through the gates again. But have you ever thought about how 02 knew how to bypass the gates? It's not like she came up with the idea right on the spot. She had already knew how to get a non-authorized person through a security gate. Now, remember that child Hero was a special specimen and had special access to the lab. I think bypassing security gates is something 02 learned from Hero as a child with his special access. And now in the present, it's her chance to return the favor. Continuing on with the scene, she jokingly offers Hero to get him out of here. I think she's replanting these ideas in his mind of escaping their society and being free. So at the moment in that exact scene, there's nowhere to run to, but it's the idea that counts, to get Hero to try and remember. Now next they talk about her name. Why does she go by 02? 02 doesn't say who gave her her name, but she just says that it's what they call her and it doesn't matter since they'll all die anyways. But remember, 02 is still a nickname. Her code is 002, but in purely Japanese that would be 00 ni, because ni is how you would say 2 in Japanese. You can even hear this computer automatically say her name. It's 00Ni.
コード002とコード016とのリンク切断。そんな!
But instead, she goes by 02, an Americanized nickname. Now, who do we know gives nicknames? Hiro. This may have been one of those first nicknames he gave out because, it isn't particularly clever, but we definitely see Child Hiro later on giving out nicknames, like to Ichigo, code 015, with 1 being pronounced Ichi and 5 being pronounced Go in Japanese. And that also forms the pun since Ichigo means strawberry in Japanese. So why did Hiro begin giving everyone nicknames? Well, maybe it was from the first one he gave out to 02. Now let's go to episode 8. Things are looking good, 02 is happy, and Hiro asks 02 to be more open with him and speak her mind. But fast forward to episode 11, 02 is a lot darker, and Hiro says, "Remember when I asked you to speak your mind with me because I want to get to know you better?" But then 02 sarcastically responds with, "Did you?" I think she said this out of frustration. She knows so much and she has a lot on her shoulders with her desires and with Hiro, but Hiro, of all people, is the one asking her if she remembers, when he's the one with a memory problem. So that's why she's frustrated with all this, and especially with Hiro's lack of progress of becoming the darling that she once knew. And we see lots of instances of 02 testing Hiro to test his true feelings to see if he's really her old darling yet. Now, Hiro obviously says that he doesn't care about her Klaxosaur side, but his actions speak otherwise. So first, she doesn't like him staring at her horns, and her horns being the inhuman part of her. In the bath scene, she tilts her horns towards Hiro, and Hiro visibly gulps, and you can see how she's disappointed at that. Now, she does the same thing when she's being taken away, but this time Hiro stands his ground and goes after her. In the library scene, we see her trying to kiss Hiro, but Hiro recoils at the sight of her fangs, and once again, she's disappointed. Now finally, it all culminates in episode 12, when she's piloting with all this rage and she reveals her true feelings, her desire to become human in order to see her darling again. And there you go. That's it for this video. Now, this theory isn't rock solid, but I think it has its merits. So overall, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it interesting.